All right. Well, hey, welcome everyone to another coach video tip. As you know, I'm Dan Foster, the Chief Operating Officer and an executive coach here at Building Champions. And today I am joined by one of our seasoned executive coaches and a former client of ours, Brett Barriage. Brett, it's great to be with you, and I'm excited to talk about team health today with you.
Hey, it's awesome to be with you, Dan. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about it. Looking forward
Yeah,
to it.
you bet. You bet, man. So at Building Champions, we believe better humans make better leaders. And that means that great leadership starts from within, but it doesn't stop there. It extends outward into how leaders show up for their teams, how they foster trust, and how they steward the culture and health of the people that they lead. So, how can leaders create dynamic environments where individuals and teams are just truly thriving? What does team health look like and feel like? And what are some of the warning signs that leaders need to pay attention to? That's what we're going to talk about today. So, Brett, great to be with you, bud. Are you ready to jump in and have a conversation?
Let's get after it.
All right, sounds good. So, let's start with the role of the leader and what role do they play in really just shaping the health of the team, Brett? And why is this so important for leaders to understand?
Yeah, when you kind of sent me that question, I was thinking about it a little bit, reflecting back to when I was leading an executive team, and just kind of trying to remember, some of that, some of the things that we worked on, some of the things that we went through, and
Yeah.
a couple of things that really came to mind for me in terms of how we set that, or how what
Mhm.
role we play in it. Is that first is that I think we model it,
Yes.
and we set the expectation, and those two kind of go hand in hand, because you set expectation, but if I don't model it, then that's just words, right, and not action.
Yeah.
So it's this expectation with modeling, but then I think coaching others towards it as well, because it's not something you declare and do and then it happens. Obviously, you need
We
to,
will be healthy.
yeah, let's put the poster on the wall, and then
That's
that's who
right.
it'll be, right? So obviously, it takes coaching and accountability
Yeah.
and a commitment to it and understanding it. But I also think, for an organization to be as successful as it can, it needs to be as healthy as it can.
Yes.
And it can't do that. An organization overall can't do that unless the leadership team is operating in a healthy manner. Not
Yeah.
perfection, that doesn't exist, obviously,
Sure.
but everybody's watching the leadership team. And so how that leadership team interacts with each other, how healthy they are, leads directly to the overall success of the organization, I believe.
I love that. I love that. So it starts with the leader. They've got to be modeling it. And then that leader not only models it, but they've got to coach and hold people accountable to it. And there has to be this mindset and understanding that the health of the executive leadership team just trickles down throughout the organization, right? The organization can't be healthy if the head of the organization is unhealthy and not functioning well together. So, okay, that makes sense. I understand. That's good. So now we often hear about the importance of creating the right environment for teams. So from your perspective, what are some of the key elements that leaders need to foster to really build healthy teams?
Yeah, and I just think back to what we did as an executive team, and we followed the Lencioni model,
So great. Yeah.
five dysfunctions of a team, and really dove into that. We did the self-assessment of our team and looked at the areas we needed to grow in. And I still think those five principles, if you will, are beautiful. And I think that they're exactly what teams need to focus on even today. And the first one obviously is trust.
Hmm.
Trust has to be the absolute foundation. Without that, the pyramid may look okay, but it's really
Yeah.
not. And so you
Yeah.
got to have that foundational trust to be there. And that can then lead to some decent conflict. If you can't have healthy conflict, you're not going to come to the best solution, the best kind of outcome that you want, without some of that kind of sharpening inside of the leadership team. So trust, then the conflict, and then commitment. This is a big one too, I think, especially, from our past where we had departments and you could have silo necessarily, but so the team may argue things out, hash things out, but then they leave that meeting as a team agreeing that they're committed to this course of action, to that decision. But then that's one of those things the organization really sees or doesn't see, is
Yes.
their commitment within that team as they go out. And then that leads to accountability with each other, peer to peer within the team, not just me having to drive it, but peers hold each other accountable,
Yeah.
which then will get to the results that you want as a team. So it's that trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results.
I loved what you said there. I hadn't thought about that, but oftentimes, people don't see the conflict that might be happening at the executive team level, but it's so important that it exists, healthy conflict where you push right up to that line and you have the deep trust to be able to, if you go over that line, to apologize and to, kind of reconcile. But what's most important is for the organization to see that commitment from everyone at the executive level, committed to the strategy, committed to the decision. And there isn't this, well, he's so and so kind of really wanted this, so that's what we're doing. That type of thing just kills the health of the organization when you don't have that commitment. So,
Yeah, I just like other comment. And I think that's so critical, and I've seen it, witnessed it in our own leadership where it hurt us because we weren't like that, but then
yeah,
we recognize that through the Lencioni model. But it is so critical that the team be on the same page is an overused obviously quote, but it's that idea that we are committed, even though we disagreed here, we
yeah.
agree now that this is the way we're going forward, and I've got each other's backs as we move forward as a team.
That's great. That's great. And you can't have that commitment if people haven't had a chance to really speak their voice or to speak their mind on a particular topic. If you come in
Mhm.
as the C-suite leader and demand that everybody get in line with something and you don't give them a chance to talk through it and communicate and get into conflict, it's hard to ever get to that commitment
Yeah,
levels, and which
yeah.
makes accountability difficult, right? I don't want to be held accountable to something that I didn't ever even have a chance to speak into. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it just all that pyramid by Lencioni is so beautiful. So, and I know you've done that a lot with the teams that you've led in the past and you help clients with it, which is great. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about blind spots, challenges, if you will, that seem to creep up on leaders if they're not careful, and it can really impact the way they're stewarding the health of the team. What have you seen?
I think one of the biggest challenges for a leader is thinking that it's all great,
Yeah.
thinking that my team is great. Of course, my team is great. They would tell me if it wasn't, I would
Right.
know I'm a great
Right.
leader, and I think that's good leaders have strong confidence and maybe even strong ego to sometimes, but that with that can come a little bit of that. How do I really know what's going on? It can
Yeah.
be really difficult for a leader to want to take a look at their team because in a way it reflects my leadership to some extent if my team isn't maybe at the top level that it could be at. And so I think that's one of the greatest pitfalls is thinking, believing their team is great. Well, how do you know? Like, how do
Yeah.
you gauge that? Just ask them, or you just think it's a gut feeling?
Yeah. It's
I
good.
think there's, I think using an assessment tool of some kind. Again, I know the five dysfunctions has one, and I've done that with clients a number of times, and it's really, really useful to being coached through that in terms of the action items that come out of that. But
Yeah.
I think that being willing to take a look at your team and say, and be humble enough to say, you know what, we're good, we're not great, or we're great, we
Right.
could be better,
Yeah.
or we're a disaster, we need to get better. I mean, you can have all those ranges, right? But the
Yeah.
willingness to take that step back is tough because it's a bit of a self-assessment of you as your leadership, but it's so critical to the team's growth and how they're going to lead and how the organization is going to perform. So that commitment to the assessment and the growth that can come out of that, I think, is absolutely critical.
That's great, man. Yeah. Sometimes we've got to look in the mirror, right? And we've got to
Yeah.
have really good self-awareness and remember that we're not going to be perfect. And as soon as you start to think that everything on the team is going great, it can create that I don't know, almost like a bias, or it's just you get too comfortable and you're like you stop asking the right questions, like you said. So that was great. So
Yeah.
good, man. Okay, so I want you to think about the leaders that you've coached, the teams that you've worked on and worked with. What have those leaders done differently? Can you maybe share an example of someone that's just done team health really well? What was it that they did? Because we want the people that are watching this to have some actionable things that they can do.
This is an extreme one. I have a
Okay.
client who it's been really interesting to watch and journey with him as
Sure.
he's kind of wrestled with his organization a bit. And I give him so much credit. I mean, he took it from there was some family kind of history. He took it from what he got it as a CEO to incredible growth
Yeah.
and and success and progress. And but then he was worried that, well, then am I going to be now a limiting factor? Can I lead this into the future? And he actually, to the point where he said, you know what? No, I need my team to be healthier here and here. And so
Mm,
I need to change my leadership role and not be as focused on this piece. And I need to be moved over here, to the point where, in some ways, he almost demoted himself. It's a bit complicated, but really interesting that someone would show that much humility because they cared so much about the health and success of the organization that he went and did that. And
mm.
I think it was, to me, it's an incredible example of the extreme kind of reaction to this, making sure that your team is healthy so your organization can be as successful as possible. And then some things came out of that. So when I thought about him and his organization
Yeah.
and some teams I work with and even teams that I was involved in a little bit, kind of four key areas jumped out at me a little
Great.
bit. The first was this an absolute unification of the vision and direction of the company. Like
Mm,
they were totally unified on where they were going as an organization. And it might have been, again, to our point about there might have been some conflict in getting there,
yeah.
certainly, but they had a clear sense of where they were going with the organization. That's always one of those key factors that, to me, in team health, that you see it in a healthy team. They were committed to supporting each other was number two. In other words, I use this phrase. I think it's from a book, The Way of the Shepherd, but they had each other's backs.
Yeah.
Like, even though, again, the conflict could happen, but they
Totally.
knew
Yep.
that when they left the meeting room, that, if you or I were in the meeting room, we had conflict, it didn't matter. When we went out, I had your back, you had mine, and there was
Yeah.
no cracks seen across
Yep.
the organization because it's a healthy way to do business, a healthy way to work together. Um, Third one was the ability to ask tough questions of each other. And I think this is the fine line. I almost said this earlier when you were talking. There's a fine line, right? Because I've seen it, and I've led teams where it was over the line, and
Yep.
I sat there kind of like, whoa, okay, what do I do now? I had to kind of rein it back in, right? And
Yeah.
just some what I would call unhealthy conflict, right?
Yep.
There's a balance of that, and that can be something you got to learn, I think, as a leader. How do I navigate that? Because
Yes.
sometimes emotions can
Yep.
just be too much, right? And so, how do I navigate that as a leader? But that, I think, still, again, the ability to ask those tough questions with respect in a healthy way. And then just third, I mean, kind of goes in line, or sorry, fourth goes in line with a little bit of each other's backs. But I would say just a genuine care for each other.
Mm,
There was a bit of a grace that I give myself. Now I
yeah.
give to others on the team as well. Doesn't mean I don't challenge, doesn't mean I don't want them to grow, but there's a genuine care for each person. They're not my best friend. It's not like my spouse or, whatever
Yeah.
partner, but there's a care for that person because we work so closely together and we're committed to doing what we're doing together. And so,
I
so
love
when I
that.
really reflected on some of those teams, those are
Yeah.
kind of the four things that stood out to me.
I love it, man. So vision and direction, everybody's aligned around it. It's clearly stated. And then there's a commitment to supporting each other in their roles and the functions that they have. And outside of the team meetings, you're committed to one another and representing each other. You have each other's backs, I think is what you
Mm.
said.
Yep. Yep.
And I love that one ability to ask tough questions of each other. That's the hardest one, I think,
Yeah.
because I just think naturally we're so relational as humans, and one of the hardest, most challenging things is to ask the question that you get this prompting, and you're like, "Ooh, I want to ask this, but I don't want to really, tick this person off or cause dysfunction." But sometimes we all need those tough questions. And then the fourth thing, just deep care for one another, caring for them as humans and as individuals that are on the same journey you're on, trying to help
Mm.
the organization to be successful. So I love those four. Thank you for sharing those. And at the heart of it is that trust, like you talked about. That's why that is at the foundation of that pyramid. So,
Mm.
man, that's great, Brett. Thank you so much, man, for sharing just your wisdom and your experience. I think, if anything, this just reinforces something that we deeply believe at Building Champions, which is that team health is a leadership responsibility. It
Mhm.
doesn't happen by default, it happens by design. And if you're a leader and you prioritize it, you cultivate trust, then engagement goes up, you achieve results that you're going after. So, if you're watching today and you want to know more about how we can help you and your executive team build trust and be healthy, please reach out to us and let us know. Check us out on LinkedIn. If you want to talk to Brett and you want to know more about him and his experience as a C suite leader and how he works with clients, reach out to us as well. We'll be happy to connect the two of you together so you can see if maybe coaching with Brett is the right option for you. So, Brett, Bud, thanks again. Always so good to talk to you. I love your experience and I love how you care deeply for your clients. It's been awesome today.
My absolute pleasure, Dan. Thanks for asking me to participate. I appreciate it.
You bet, bud. All right, folks, we'll see you next time.